Welcome into Palmetto Sports Daily. I'm Ella Grogan, joined by Teagan, Rick, and Kevin all across the board here in South Carolina. And here in South Carolina, we all have one question on our mind. How in the world are the Gamecocks and the Tigers going to get into the win category, get those 6 wins so that they can make a Pro Bowl for the rest of this season? And this weekend, that all starts for Clemson against Florida State. But a big thing with Florida State this weekend isn't just about the game. It's also the fact that it is the Hall of Fame game. And we got a couple big guys entering it this weekend, and one of them is a huge standout. DeAndre Hopkins, also known as D-Hop, had an incredible career with the Texans, but he's still going with the Ravens, had a great season there so far. Here's what Dabo had to say about this weekend and seeing a longtime friend being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
He's one of the most dominant players I've ever been around. And again, he doesn't overwhelm you with his run away, but he runs fast. He got faster, he got stronger, he got technically developed and all that stuff, and just became superstar. And I mean, he'll be my first NFL Hall of Famer. I can't imagine he don't get in the NFL Hall of Fame one day. But I mean, I'm really proud of him, and so pretty cool to see him going there.
For 1,000 in his career.
There you go. How many of them? There's probably not many of them that exist. It's a lot of catches.
He'll be the 17th.
There you go. How long's the NFL been around? Long time.
You hear someone jumping in at the end there. That is Tim Beret. He used to be the SID at Clemson, and now he is a radio guy for Clemson, and he is also referred to as the Clemson Google. He's also being inducted into the Hall of Fame with D-Hop. We'll see how that happens with the Ravens game this weekend against the Vikings. I don't know if he's actually going to be there in person, but hopefully we'll get the opportunity to talk to him. Now, D-Hop was a little bit before my time when he was at Clemson, but Rick, I know you got to see him perform. What was that like as a player? I mean, I can't imagine what the Nuke was like to see in person.
He's one of the best college receivers I've ever seen or had the opportunity to cover. He didn't say a whole lot, but he let his play on the field speak for him. Just made some amazing catches. Definitely one of the top receivers in Clemson history, and they produce some pretty good receivers. You look at T. Higgins, who's still active in the league, but DeAndre, tough guy, amazing catches, and so, yes, glad to see him going into Clemson's Hall of Fame. Kevin?
Yeah, and it's tough to remember, but the numbers they put up when DeAndre was there and Taj Boyd was throwing to him and Sammy Watkins was on the other side. I mean, Clemson's offense at that time was just a juggernaut going through the air. And even on the ground, Andre Ellington was there at running back for a lot of that time. So he was, picking up yards as well. But I think we also forget DeAndre played basketball at Clemson as well for a couple of years. And I don't think he was a starter ever, but he put up some solid numbers for a guy playing just part of the year after football was done and then coming off the bench and contributing to those Tigers teams, Teagan.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't know that either. I hadn't been around Clemson that much before I moved down here. But, yeah, super exciting to see that they're inducting him. We'll see him in the NFL one, too, as well someday. So, yeah, super exciting news there, Ella.
Absolutely, and you kind of mentioned that he was there on some of the highs for Clemson, but he was also there in some of the lows. You guys saw the iconic press conference of Dabo this week, talking about the 2010 team and how they had to persevere through that, and they plan to do it again this year, referring to that losing season that he experienced for the first time that D-Hop was actually a part of. And he said from that moment, I think he put on like 40 pounds or something, and they turned it around. And he obviously performed at an incredible level to go in the first round to the Texans. Kevin?
Yeah, that should be a great game this weekend as they take on Florida State. The thing I wanted to ask everybody is, we've been talking about the struggles Clemson's been having and the struggles South Carolina's been having. As we're trying to map out if these teams have a chance of going to a bowl game, it seems like the big decider is going to be that final game of the regular season. And we haven't talked about it in a while, but I want to make picks. Who do we think is going to win that Clemson-Carolina game, starting with you, Rick?
Oh, wow. This reminds me of 1998 when the Gamecocks came into the Palmetto Bowl with 1 win, and Clemson only had 2. Clemson won that one. Well, who am I going to favor in this one? Well, if Carolina's offense can improve a little bit with Mike Fleury calling the plays, you would say maybe they would have the better chance. I don't know. South Carolina hasn't beaten Clemson at Williams-Brice Stadium since 2013. Something tells me that streak will continue. And right now, on what's the date here? November 6th. I'm going to say Clemson will win it. Teagan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to go with Clemson as well in this one. You know, you said if South Carolina can improve their offense, then maybe it's a different story. But that's up in the air of if we're gonna see that against Texas A&M next week. At least with Clemson, I've seen them do more on that side of the ball, and I have slightly more confidence in them in this matchup. So I'm gonna have to go with Clemson, Ella.
Hot seat question, but I'm going to go with the crowd here and also go with Clemson. I think it's obviously going to be a very, very high-scoring game just based on what we've seen. But if I were to bet, I think it's going to come down to the end here. This is going to be for all the marbles. It's going to be for who goes to the Pro Bowl game. And I think Dabo's going to have one of his iconic liners for the Clemson Tigers and say, "Why'd you doubt us?" But, Kevin, what do you think?
There is no way I'm letting us go 4 for 4 all picking the same team. So just for that reason, I'm taking South Carolina to win this game at home in Williams-Brice. And, I don't think they're going to have a shot at a bowl game because I think they're going to lose to Texas A&M this weekend. But, beating Clemson in your final game of the season at home would be a pretty good way for Shane Beamer's team to wrap up 2025. We've got more to talk about here on Palmetto Sports Daily coming up right after this.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. From college football to college basketball. The South Carolina men tipped off the season on Tuesday with an impressive win over North Carolina A&T. But two guys didn't suit up for that game. Cam Scott from Lexington High School, a sophomore guard, and E.J. Walker, a freshman forward. They were in street clothes. They planned to redshirt. Now, there's a look at Scott. He played in 26 games last season as a freshman, but didn't set the world on fire, just averaged 2.5 points per game. And there's E.J. Walker, freshman forward from Kentucky. He's 6'7", and was ranked the number 64 power forward in the country. Head coach Lamont Paris says both guys will be able to work on their games and get stronger while they sit out a year.
It's a demonstration of commitment to what you believe about the future of those players. I mean, you think about it, if I didn't believe that those guys would be good players, I wouldn't let them redshirt so they could come back again. I think those guys are going to be good players. EJ wasn't here last year, but EJ's one of the most improved players from the day that we got here to right now. Cam has also made tremendous improvement from last year to this year. I think the whole fleet of ships has risen as well. And so he's got some things that he wants to attack in during this season that are easier done while you're in a redshirt situation.
So Lamont Paris bringing in 11 new players through the transfer portal and freshmen. They're really crowded at the forward position with some seniors, some graduate players who are not going to be here next year. So really for Cam Scott and E.J. Walker, I think it's also a bit of a gamble. You don't know who's going to come in through the transfer portal again, and your position may wind up being crowded again. So, Kevin, what do you think? Good move, bad move on the part of the players?
I would say, first off, shocking move, especially on Cam Scott's part, especially when you consider this was a guy who was going to go to Texas and play there originally before deciding to reclassify and come to South Carolina. Then after his freshman year, he actually entered the transfer portal. It looked like for a while he was going to leave South Carolina. Then he makes the decision to come back, and now he's redshirt. I'm just really surprised. And it's a little bit of a surprising move by Lamont Paris as well, because you could redshirt him this year and you could sit him out and he can work on his game, and he might decide that he wants to leave after this year, and then you've gotten even less out of him. You've spent this whole year putting time into this guy and helping him improve, and then he decides to go somewhere else. So really surprising move, especially on the Cam Scott front, Rick. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I was surprised too because, like you say, it was big news when he decided to go to Texas, and then bigger news when he came back, and then when he flirted with going into the transfer portal again, but then he thought about it and decided that this would be the best spot for him. So maybe it's a sign that he's really committed to South Carolina and he wants to be the best player possible when he does get his playing time. At least I'm sure that's what a lot of his family and friends around here are hoping, because they've been waiting now for, it's going to be 3 years to see what he can do on the court. Teagan?
Yeah, definitely an interesting move for him. Definitely unexpected. But, you know, in the era of transfer portal and moving around and all that, the unexpected honestly kind of becomes expected. And for Coastal Carolina, you know, tons of transfers this year, lots of new faces, a few freshmen. I believe they've got 3 of them on the team. And Coastal's getting ready to go home as part of homecoming weekend. They're going to be at home tomorrow night hosting Virginia Lynchburg. The Dragons, I was unaware that was their mascot before I was doing my research on them. And then also in my research, they went 0-26 last season. So if Coastal were to lose in this game, that'd be embarrassing. I don't think there's another word for it. But Coastal Carolina coming off of a loss in their first game of the year against Western Michigan, 76-71 loss there. But there were some highlights in this game. We saw a lot of new ball handlers compared to last year. You know, last season, Rashid Jones was really the only one scoring major points for them there. This year, they've got Joshua Beadle, the Boston College transfer / Clemson before that. And then they've also got A.J. Dantzler at the guard position. And, you know, each of them really put together a performance earlier this week in that Western Michigan game. And head coach Justin Gray is looking forward to what they can do the rest of the season for him.
Yeah, I think, you know, those 3 guards, if you add A.J. in there as well, for them guys to score 60 points, you know, we didn't get a lot of that in the seasons before, but we also challenging them not only to score the basketball, but to be able to create for some other guys as well. Just trusting them, right? And we're a new group. We got, you know, there's a whole bunch of new faces, and people will have to get to learn those guys, but being able to pass the ball to the open guy, being able to share it, and we just ultimately want those guys to be in control of the game.
Yeah, you know, Coastal Carolina won 10 games last season. They won 9 the year before. So they're really looking to do something for Teal Nation this year. I was talking to head coach Justin Gray earlier about, you know, the success of the baseball team at Coastal and then, you know, the turnaround success of football this season. So, I mean, Kevin, it would be a really good thing to see them win in this game here, especially considering the Dragons' record from last year and what people want to see Coastal do the rest of the year.
Yeah, I would say if they don't win this game coming up tomorrow, then Justin's going to have a lot of questions to answer after this one on Friday night. Also wanted to mention a couple low country teams going to be in action tonight. The Citadel, after winning their season opener against Erskine on Monday, they step up the competition a little bit. They're going on the road to face Earl Grant and Boston College tonight. Charleston Southern, after losing their opener at Virginia Tech on Monday, they have their home opener tonight when they take on Toccoa Falls. We've got more to talk about here on Palmetto Sports Daily coming up right after this. Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. We move over to the women's side of college basketball, and Dawn Staley has never been shy about making her schedule a little bit tougher over at South Carolina, and this morning signing a deal to have 3 tough opponents over each of the next 3 seasons, with games to be played up in Charlotte, Rick. All right, Rick's going to join us back here in just a second. We do want to mention they're going to be part of Charlotte's Ally Tip-Off. And Carolina is going to play North Carolina coming up in 2026. Then a game against UConn coming up in 2027. Follow that by playing NC State in 2028. So that series against UConn, it's always so back and forth. And it's probably, at this point, the best series we have in the entire sport of women's college basketball. We do know we're going to be getting another one coming up in 2027. So that is a great deal for the sport, Ella.
Hey, Kevin, I kind of lost you guys for a second there, but I can obviously talk about the alley kickoff, I think, or tip-off, excuse me, wrong sport. But I think it is always an incredible thing to get to play these high-profile matchups earlier on when you can. I think a lot of times with basketball, you don't see these matchups between UConn and the Gamecocks and things like that until March. And so getting those early practices early on to kind of see how your people are performing against some of the greatest is incredibly important. Rick, what do you think?
Yeah, I lost audio for a moment too, but I'm back. I think this shows that Dawn Staley will play anyone, anywhere, anytime. And so she's not afraid to take anyone on. Plus, some great competition and some great venues. I mean, Paris. Who's not in favor of going to Paris and checking out the Eiffel Tower? But I like her scheduling philosophy. This will only make the team tougher when it comes to NCAA tournament time, in addition to the SEC tournament, which will get you ready for anything. So kudos to Dawn Staley and her scheduling. Teagan?
Yeah, hopping on the train, I also missed most of what Kevin said with some audio issues, but exciting nonetheless. I think this is a great test, like you said, Ella, earlier in the season, just to get matchups against these teams and, get an idea for when you undoubtedly will probably see them in the postseason, what they're going to do then and everything. So super exciting for Dawn Staley and the group. And it's in Paris. That is the coolest thing ever. So, yeah, Kevin, super exciting. And now I can hear you, so I'd love to hear what else you can say.
Well, I do have more to talk about, so you guys are lucky on that front. And it's going to be in college baseball because, we're full-fledged into football and basketball has already started. So why not talk about some college baseball? And we do have a matchup tonight here in the Low Country, some fall ball action as South Carolina coming down to Charleston to take on the College of Charleston team. This one not over at Patriots Point, though. They're actually going to play at Riley Park, the home of the River Dogs and the Citadel. This is the second straight year these two teams are meeting up over at Riley Park. And last year it was close to a sellout. I'm expecting about the same thing this year. We're going to talk to both head coaches, Paul Maneri and Chad Holbrook, coming up a little bit later this afternoon. So we're going to hear from them hopefully tomorrow on this show. But it should be a good test for both squads. I know the College of Charleston came up a little bit short of what they were hoping for last year after the season before, just missing out on the NCAA tournament. So Chad Holbrook would like to turn things around and get his team kind of getting ready to go right off the bat this season. I know this starting off, they struggled a little bit. Of course, South Carolina had pretty much a disaster season last year in Paul Maneri's first season as the head coach of the Gamecocks. So they're looking to turn the ship around. And it seems like, Rick, through all the transfers they've gotten and everything, it seems like they are on track to hopefully have a good season this year.
Yeah, here in Gamecock country, I hope Paul Maneri can have a good season because the way football is gone, of course, the Gamecocks have women's basketball to look forward to. They know that's going to be result in a bunch of wins and maybe another run to the Final Four. But I like Paul Maneri's attitude. He said, hey, when he was at LSU, he struggled a little bit, and he's confident that he can turn this program around and get it back to the level that Gamecock fans expect.
All right, hopefully have highlights of that one coming up right here tomorrow. We're not done yet here on Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll wrap things up right after this.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily, and welcome back to my favorite topic of discussion, the Furman Paladins. Shout out to my alma mater. We have a huge event going on right now for Furman men's soccer. They are currently ranked number 5 in the nation, not number 5 in the SoCon, in the nation, right up there with Maryland and Duke, and they are having an incredible season so far. They just beat Wofford to advance into the SoCon tournament, where they're either going to play Wofford or ETSU in the semifinal this Sunday. But the greatest part about this story is their head coach, Doug Allison. I had the opportunity to sit down with him one-on-one and hear about his 31 seasons that he has had with Furman. And you got to love this story when it comes to sports. They're going out on a bang. They're doing the thing. They could have another historic season. This guy has won 11 SoCon tournaments, and he's hoping to win number 12 this weekend as it continues on. But, Rick, you got to love this about sports, right? I mean, the team's doing it for their coach one last time. They're wearing these shirts that say one last ride. It's awesome.
Yeah, you want to send him out with another big celebration. Just keep mounting those wins. But, boy, what a career. 31 years and all those tournament titles and victories to celebrate. Yeah, kudos to him and the Paladin soccer program.
Yeah, Ella, why is he calling it a career now? It seems like he's finally got things right where he wants it. It seems like maybe stick around for a few more years, see if you can keep him at a top 5 team in the nation. Did he mention why now's the time for him to go?
I asked him the exact same question. I was like, what's making you want to hang up the towel? And he said it's time to spend some time with family. And I actually got the chance to talk to his son, who just got married, and he said that Doug is so excited to get to go to all the kids and all the grandkids' weddings, and of course spend some time at the beach with his wife Jody. Teagan?
Yeah, I mean, what a great career. And, it's so admirable the fact that he stayed there all these years. I'm sure after all that success, he probably could have gone a lot of places, and he decided to stay there. But, yeah, staying and getting some time with family, I'm sure will be very nice for him.
Absolutely, and you got to hope that they pull through here in the end with this win over whether it's Wofford or ETSU. I may be a little biased, I'm sorry to the Wofford or ETSU viewers out there, but just such an incredible career for him, and we can't wait to continue to see how he finishes it. Obviously, the last thing on the checklist would be for him to be able to win the NCAA championship, something that he's never done before, which is obviously very possible this weekend. But that does it for Palmetto Sports. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.